It begins in the quiet, in the space between breaths, in the pause before a decision, in the moment your eyes open to a day not yet formed. There is a pull, a deep, organic need to shape what happens next, to steer the chaos into something resembling order, to impose your will upon the raw material of existence. We call this need control, and we believe we understand it. We think of it as a lever we pull, a command we issue, a boundary we enforce. We see it in the grand gestures, the loud pronouncements, the visible structures of power and discipline. But this is the illusion. The most profound mechanics of control are not in the things we grab, but in the things we do not notice releasing. They are not in the walls we build, but in the horizons we quietly agree to forget. The true architecture of control is built from absence, from silence, from the rules written in negative space. The first unspoken rule is this: the greatest control is often mistaken for freedom. It is the system so seamless, so intuitive, so perfectly aligned with your desires that you never feel its touch. You believe you are navigating open water, charting your own course by the stars of your ambition. You do not see the currents beneath you, the deep, relentless flows that were engineered long before you set sail. They carry you with such gentle force that every turn of the wheel feels like your own discovery. The destination, when you arrive, will feel earned, chosen, uniquely yours. And in that feeling, in that complete ownership of the journey, lies the perfect execution of control. You have been guided, but you have not been commanded. You have been shaped, but you have not been broken. This is control that does not confront. It collaborates with your own sense of self. It whispers directions in your own voice. So when you feel most free, most authentically yourself, most in charge of your destiny, pause. Ask the quieter question: who built the water, and why does it flow this way? Consider your attention, that fleeting, sacred resource. It is the spotlight of your consciousness. Where you direct it, reality blossoms into detail, into meaning. Where you withdraw it, reality fades into background noise. The second unspoken rule is, control is the gradual annexation of your attention. It does not ask for your time, not at first. It asks for a glance, a momentary curiosity, a flicker of emotion. It presents a puzzle, an outrage, a spectacle of someone else's life, a fragment of a story that feels just incomplete enough to trigger your mind's desire for closure. And you give it that glance, you solve its small puzzle, you feel its manufactured outrage, and in doing so, you have performed the first act of surrender. You have allowed an external force to set the agenda for your own inner world. You have let it choose which emotions you will feel, which questions you will ponder, which shadows you will examine. This annexation is not a violent invasion. It is a series of small, voluntary concessions. Each one seems harmless, insignificant, but collectively they form a map of your mental landscape drawn by someone else. Your anxieties begin to cluster around their provided targets. Your sense of what is important is calibrated by their curated highlights. Your very perception of reality becomes a composite image assembled from fragments they handed to you. You believe you are exploring the world, but you are walking a path through a garden that was planted and pruned for you. The control is in the terrain. You still choose your steps, but every possible path leads you to a vista they prepared. There is a deep biological craving for predictability. Our nervous systems are prediction engines, constantly working to minimize surprise, to create a model of the world that allows us to function without constant terror. The third unspoken rule is, control is exercised by managing expectations. Not just your expectations of the world, but the world's expectations of you. When you can reliably predict an outcome, you feel safe, you feel in control. And so, systems of control become masters of setting and meeting expectations. They create patterns so regular, so dependable, that your consciousness begins to delegate. You stop looking, you stop questioning. The morning ritual, the weekly report, the monthly subscription, the annual review. They form a rhythm that lulls the critical mind to sleep. You move through the patterns on autopilot because the expectation has been so perfectly managed that deviation feels like a personal failure, a glitch in your own programming. But there is a more subtle layer. This management of expectations also defines the limits of the possible. It teaches you, subtly and relentlessly, what you should expect from life, from your relationships, from your own potential. It defines what is realistic. And in doing so, it builds a cage whose bars are made of lowered hopes. You are controlled not by being told you cannot fly, but by being systematically convinced that the sky is much lower than you once imagined, that extraordinary outcomes are statistical truths, that contentment is found in the careful management of modest desires. The horizon of your life is limited, and you are taught to call that horizon everything else.
Language is not just a tool for communication. It is the software of thought. The concepts you can articulate are the concepts you can conceive. The fifth unspoken rule is, control is maintained by narrowing the vocabulary of the possible. It operates by making certain thoughts literally unthinkable, because the words to frame them do not exist in your common usage, or have been stripped of their power. Think of the slow, subtle shift in the meaning of words like freedom, community, success, or security. They are hollowed out, filled with new, quieter meanings that serve the status quo. Or consider the concepts that never enter mainstream conversation because there is no simple, accepted term for them. The specific texture of a nuanced emotion, the precise mechanism of a subtle injustice, the name for a quiet kind of courage. Without the words, the experience remains fuzzy, isolated, inexpressible. It cannot be shared, organized around, or turned into a demand. This linguistic control is insidious. You feel a vague dissatisfaction, a sense that something is missing, but you cannot name it. You cannot point to it. And because you cannot name it, you cannot address it. Your discontent remains a private, formless ache, rather than a shared understanding that could lead to change. Furthermore, the constant, simplistic language of slogans and branding reduces complex human experiences to binary choices, to emotional triggers. It trains your mind to think in shallow categories. Over time, your inner monogamous self adopts these patterns. Your own thoughts become easier, less nuanced, more reliant on prepackaged phrases. You believe you are expressing yourself, but you are parroting a lexicon designed to limit the range of human expression. The boundaries of your world are the boundaries of your language. We are born into narratives. Stories about who we are, where we come from, what it means to be good, what it means to fail. The sixth unspoken rule is, you are controlled by the stories you inherit, but you are mastered by the stories you believe you have chosen. The inherited stories, from family, culture, religion, are often visible. You can see their seams, their contradictions. You can rebel against them. But the stories you believe you have chosen for yourself are far more powerful. The personal narrative of your own life, the story of your past triumphs and tragedies, the story of your identity, the story of your future trajectory. This narrative feels intimately yours. You crafted it from your experiences. But who provided the archetypes? Who defined what constitutes a triumph? Who decided which experiences are formative and which are irrelevant? The templates for a meaningful life are everywhere, in films, in literature, in the curated lives of others. You assemble your personal story using these prefabricated parts. You are the hero of your own journey, but you are following a well-trodden plot. The control is exercised by limiting the range of acceptable narratives. You can be a rugged individualist who overcomes adversity. You can be a creative spirit who suffers for their art. You can be a loyal team player who finds fulfillment in service. These are the available roles. But what if your life does not fit a role? What if your truth is messy, contradictory, and devoid of clear arcs? The pressure to force your life into a coherent, socially legible story is a profound form of control. It makes you edit your own reality. You suppress memories that don't fit the plot. You exaggerate moments that serve the theme. You make present decisions not based on what you truly want, but based on what would make sense for the character you are playing. You become the author of your own prison, diligently writing the bars into the storyline. Time feels like the most personal of dimensions. It is the raw material of your life, the irreversible flow from birth to death. The seventh unspoken rule is, control is the theft of your time, not through occupation, but through fragmentation. It is not that your time is taken and filled with a single, demanding task. That you could resist. That you could fight against. The more potent theft is the shredding of time into useless, disconnected scraps. The constant context switching demanded by modern life. The notification that shatters a train of thought. The obligation that pulls you away from deep work just as you enter a state of flow. Your attention is a fragile vessel. To fill it with meaning, with depth, requires uninterrupted stretches where thought can build upon itself, where ideas can connect and grow. Fragmented time renders this impossible. You are left with only the capacity for reaction, for shallow processing. You become a machine for responding to stimuli, not for generating original thought. This state is ideal for control, because a fragmented mind is a manageable mind. It cannot hold a complex idea long enough to examine it. It cannot trace the long chains of consequence that lead from cause to effect. It lives in an eternal, frantic present, leaping from one micro-crisis to the next. You are kept busy, but you are never productive in a meaningful sense. You are in motion, but you are going nowhere. Your lifetime, your one and only irreplaceable resource, is converted into a cloud of disconnected moments, each one too small to hold a dream, a plan, or a revolution. You look back and see a blur of activity, but you cannot point to a single thing you built from the foundation up. The control is in the prevention of depth. They have not taken your time, they have made it incapable of bearing weight. Your body is not just a vessel for your mind. It is your primary interface with reality. The sensations you feel, the pleasures you seek, the discomforts you avoid, they are fundamental data points. The eighth unspoken rule is, control seeks to separate you from the wisdom of your own body. It teaches you to distrust its signals, to override its rhythms, to medicate its discomforts without listening to their messages. We are trained from a young age to sit still when the body wants to move, to work when the body screams for rest, to consume what is convenient rather than what is nourishing, to ignore chronic low-grade pain or fatigue as a normal cost of living. This disconnect creates a profound vulnerability. When you are alienated from your own physical being, you become reliant on external authorities to tell you what is healthy, what is normal, what you need. You look to diets, to fitness trends, to medical protocols, to pills, to any system that promises to manage the body you no longer understand. Your own hunger, your own fatigue, your own intuition about what feels right or wrong becomes suspect. This separation also makes you easier to manipulate emotionally. So much of our emotional state is grounded in our physical one. Anxiety is a racing heart, a tight chest. Depression is a heaviness in the limbs, a lack of energy. By numbing you to these physical correlates, or by teaching you to see them purely as chemical glitches to be silenced, control severs the feedback loop between your physical and emotional selves. You can no longer trust your gut feeling, because you have lost touch with your gut. You become a mind floating in a machine you neither operate nor comprehend, always looking for an external manual. The control is in the act of turning you into a stranger within your own skin. We imagine that rebellion is a dramatic, visible act. A shout, a protest, a defiant stand. The ninth unspoken rule is, the system is most in control when it can commodify your rebellion. It absorbs the symbols of resistance, sanitizes them, and sells them back to you as identity. The leather jacket, the ripped jeans, the provocative slogan on a mass-produced t-shirt, the music born from anguish and anger played as soothing background noise in a corporate lobby. When you purchase and display these symbols, you feel a sense of individuality, of edge, of nonconformity. But this feeling is the product. It is the illusion of rebellion without the cost, without the risk, without the genuine threat to the established order. True rebellion is inconvenient. It is isolating. It often involves sacrifice, misunderstanding, and walking a path with no clear reward. Commodified rebellion offers all the aesthetic with none of the consequences. It allows you to feel like a revolutionary while remaining a perfectly compliant consumer. This is control of a higher order. It does not stamp out dissent, it turns dissent into a market segment. It neutralizes the energy of rebellion by channeling it into harmless personal expression. The system is not threatened by your band t-shirt. It is strengthened by your belief that wearing it makes you free. The most powerful cages are the ones you decorate yourself, believing the decorations are the key. Your memory is the foundation of your identity. It is the thread that stitches yourself together across time. The 10th unspoken rule is, control reshapes the past to dictate the present. It does not need to erase history. It only needs to subtly reframe it, to change the emphasis, to alter the emotional resonance of what is remembered. This happens on a grand, societal scale through media and education, but it also happens intimately, inside your own mind. You are encouraged to curate your past. to highlight the moments of resilience, the lessons learned, the triumphs. To quietly discard the memories of shame, of helplessness, of pure, unproductive pain. You create a personal history that is a coherent story leading to the person you are today. But in doing so, you lose access to the raw truth of your experience. You lose the memory of what it actually felt like to be powerless, to be confused, to be heartbroken without the silver lining. This sanitized past becomes a tool for present control. It makes you believe that your current struggles, if handled correctly, will also become noble anecdotes in the future. It turns every present difficulty into a potential plot point, robbing it of its authentic, messy, potentially transformative agony. Furthermore, when the public past is constantly being reframed, when heroes are recast as villains, when movements are reduced to slogans, when complex events are flattened into moral fables, your sense of continuity is broken. You lose trust in any narrative. This creates a profound existential dizziness. If the past is not solid, then the present has no foundation, and the future has no direction. In this state of disorientation, you will cling to any story that offers simplicity and certainty, no matter how contrived. Control thrives in the gap between what happened and what we agree to remember. It writes the lesson after the test has been taken. Silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is a space, a canvas, a presence in itself. The 11th unspoken rule is, control is maintained by the fear of silence, both internal and external. We fill our lives with a constant stream of noise, music, podcasts, television, social media scrolling, the hum of perpetual connectivity. We do this because silence is terrifying. In silence, you are left alone with the contents of your own mind. Unfiltered, uncurated, undistracted. You might encounter boredom, which is the itching need for external stimulation. You might encounter anxiety, the free-floating fear with no specific target. You might encounter difficult questions you have been avoiding. You might simply encounter yourself, stripped of all performance, all role-playing. This is an unbearable prospect for many. And so, the constant noise becomes a protective barrier, a gentle cage that keeps you from facing the abyss of your own being. The external world cooperates by making silence a rare commodity. It is sold back to you as a luxury: meditation retreats, noise-canceling headphones, silent spas. But genuine, freely chosen, everyday silence is eroded. This fear is exploited. Because in that silent space, real thought is born. Critical assessment occurs. The contrast between the life you are living and the life you sense is possible becomes stark and undeniable. From silence can emerge a resolve that is unshakable, because it is born not from reaction to external stimulus, but from deep, internal conviction. Therefore, control must ensure that silence is seen as awkward, as empty, as something to be avoided. It must keep the soundtrack of your life playing, so you never hear the quiet voice that might tell you to turn it all off. We are taught to seek clarity. A clear goal, a clear plan, a clear answer. Ambiguity is seen as a problem to be solved. The 12th unspoken rule is, control flourishes in ambiguity. It thrives in the spaces where responsibility is diffuse, where accountability is unclear, where the rules are unwritten but fiercely enforced. When you cannot pinpoint the source of a demand, the origin of a pressure, you cannot challenge it. You are left wrestling with a fog. Is this expectation coming from my boss, or the company culture, or the industry standard? Is this anxiety my own, or is it being generated by the news cycle, by social comparison? Is this desire authentic, or is it an implant from 1,000 advertisements? In the absence of clear lines, you default to compliance. You err on the side of caution. You follow the faint, unspoken path because the alternative is to step into a void with no landmarks. Bureaucracies are masters of this. They create processes so Byzantine that no single person is responsible for an outcome. The system itself becomes the authority, a faceless, volious entity that can never be reasoned with, only appeased. This same ambiguity exists in social and psychological realms. They say this. Everyone knows that. The pressure to conform comes from everywhere and nowhere at once. You are not fighting a person, you are fighting a climate. And how do you fight a climate? You learn to live within its weather patterns. You adapt. You internalize the pressure until it feels like your own common sense. The control is in the lack of a target. You cannot wage a war against a mist. So you just learn to breathe it in. Vulnerability is the state of being open to hurt. It is the courage to show your real self, with all its flaws and needs. We are often told vulnerability is strength. And in the context of genuine human connection, this is true. But the 13th unspoken rule is, the system invites you to be vulnerable to it, while it remains utterly opaque to you. It asks for your data, your preferences, your fears, your dreams. It encourages you to share your life, your opinions, your location, your relationships. This transaction is framed as connection, as convenience, as personalization.